Well, there you go. That's done me confidence, the power of good. Hello and welcome to the Comedy Slab podcast. I'm Shane O'Connor. He's Adrian Lacey. Before we just started all of this, I said, shall I start now? And Adrian said, well, you go ahead. I don't listen to this bit anyway, which is all I needed to hear, really. Thank you. A real confidence booster. Thanks.
I like to raise the spirits.
You do, don't you?
And I've drunk quite a few of them now.
You've raised more than is healthy for all of us. It's the Comedy Slab podcast, where each week Adrian and I choose a comedy program. Well, we do it alternately. Otherwise, we'd end up bringing two comedy programs, and that'd be no good to anybody because nobody would know whether we're talking about the first one or the second one. But we alternately choose a comedy program to watch or listen to, and then slab, as we like to say, by giving it a bit of a poke and a prod about and seeing what were the bits that we liked and what were the bits that maybe we weren't so keen on. It was my turn to choose last week, and I chose Peter Kay's Car Share. Between now and the end of the podcast, we'll play you a couple of clips to give you a bit of a flavour if you've never come across the programme. If, like me, you never. In fact, you hadn't watched this either.
I confess, I didn't confess last week when you set the homework.
Yes,
I kept my powder dry, but I have seen it before, and but I can't remember whether I broke my own personal rule of just watching one episode. I've got a feeling I watched more than one, but not many more than one, maybe two.
In addition to all of this hilarity, we'll be giving it marks out of 5 each, giving it a grand total out of 10.
Are you laughing at the idea of hilarity, which seems really inappropriate?
Should we do a bit of comedy news, as we often tend to do around this time in the podcast?
I think so. Let's do the show right here.
All right, one caught my eye, because I read the headline about 4 times, and I thought, is it me, or when people write headlines now, do you struggle sometimes with the way that they're written? Is this in social media, but I kind of think, what the hell does that mean? I have no idea what that means.
I don't know that it's ever got any worse than it ever was, but maybe it was never fantastic.
Hang on, what was the middle bit?
I'm a headline writer. I just wrote a headline for you in answer to your question.
And the other thing as well, and I don't think this is an Americanism, is that instead of using "and," they use a comma.
Oh, I don't like that. Don't start me on. Oh, yes. And they're a bit lazy in America. You'd think they have the most hard-working culture of any country on the planet.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like if you buy a magazine, if anyone remembers what those are, Google it, or even probably a digital magazine.
This isn't Big Girls Weekly story again, is it?
Well, it may be, but I don't see why I shouldn't buy that. Some girls' mothers are bigger than other girls' mothers, as Morrissey poignantly and meaningfully sang many years ago. When you look at the contents, usually first or second page in British magazines, it will give you a different selling point for the articles compared to when you actually get to the article. But in America, the selling point, this one sentence under the hook line or the byline, is the same when you then go to the article, which it surprised me that they put up with that in hardworking America, because they only take 2 weeks off. You'd have thought they'd have time to reword it even, say the same thing, but in a different way. Yeah,
the headline was, Channel 4 buys Catherine Parkinson comedy spreadsheet.
It feels like it's lacking verbs or adjectives or something in there.
Or even a bit of punctuation might go missing there, might it really? So I thought she'd done this spreadsheet about comedy, and that they bought it off her. I thought that's weird, but it turns out that but it gets even more intriguing, because it turns out that this Catherine Parkinson comedy, Catherine Parkinson, of course, of the IT crowd and Defending the Guilty, which we slabbed,
just the other week,
not but a few slabs ago, and Catherine Parkinson, British actress, comedy actress, is appearing in this what they describe as Australian comedy, and I thought, this is just getting more and more bizarre as time goes on. But then it started to make me think about the concept of putting Catherine Parkinson in a comedy, an Australian comedy. Does that make it then more saleable back to the UK? Did any of this strike you as a little bit weird, or was it just am I isolated in my weird machinations?
Well, it turns out the sub-headline under the headline you read begins with the word about.
Yes.
But that's a continuation of the headline. It says, about a woman seeking sex with no strings attached.
Oh, it does, yes. Yeah, Catherine, Channel 4 buys Catherine Parkinson comedy spreadsheet about a woman seeking sex with...
Yeah, but in much smaller type, so you could be forgiven, even though I don't feel like forgiving you, but you could be forgiven for not seeing those as part of the same sentence.
Yeah. Do you think this was the work experience or the intern or whatever they call them this week?
I do worry.
I couldn't... The whole thing just seemed like a bit of a mishmash, and I'm just bewildered. But I mean, not least the fact that it's just a horrible concept as well. I wonder whether it was something that couldn't be made in Britain, or they didn't want to make it, or she couldn't find anyone to make it. And then I don't know whether she's involved. All the key things that you want to know, and it just tells you about this woman and
yeah, but it's come from a press release, most likely, hasn't it?
Unending quest for sex, which she has to make a spreadsheet to keep a track of it all. And presumably she has a companion one that keeps track of all her diseases as well.
You just wouldn't let it lie, would you?
Is this where feminism is now? Do you think? Then is that?
Well, would you have made the same point about blokes sleeping around and disease?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, really. It's not. And maybe this is because I'm a parent now, but it's not something that you kind of strive towards, is it? Is it? I don't know. Maybe you do.
Well, I've aspired to it for years, but delivery has taken more than 28 days.
But who'd have you? That's the question.
With these feet.
The whole concept, the whole idea of a Brit going to Australia and then we consume the products of is that something that floats your boat or not?
Well, I don't subscribe to that theory. That seems an unlikely and very tortuous way of going about selling TV. I mean, it might also be giving away a sort of colonial mindset that Australia aren't allowed to A, cast who they want, and B, enjoy their own TV shows with whomever in. I mean, there are a lot of TV viewers down under, mate.
Well, there's not as many as here. I mean, because the population isn't as large, is it? So
no, but is that a big deal? Does that matter? You don't mention selling to the States, which it probably will in some form.
But they're 300 million, aren't they? That's why. I mean, in Australia, what's the population of Australia these days?
Yeah, but what I'm saying, Australia could sell it to the States. I don't quite see why.
But because Catherine Parkinson is the British connection.
Well, your friend, who I'm not allowed to call your friend, whose name has now escaped me,
who's that?
Who was in an Australian in a Radio 4 series.
Oh, you always say that. It's really weird. Go on, yeah.
I forgot, but she's not a Catherine, is she?
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
So long. Anyway, the point was you didn't say, and as it turns out, she lives in London, so you might think that demolishes my argument, but you didn't think, I can't get my head around the idea of an Australian in a British production.
Well, because there are a lot of Australians, aren't there, in the UK? I mean, like you say, in London.
They're very welcome, as long as they pay for my pension.
Well, I didn't suggest that they weren't, but I mean, there are a lot of Australians in London, aren't there? I mean, and that's one of the things.
How else would you get served in a pub?
Exactly.
Oh, sorry, that was a terrible stereotype. I nicked that off Al Murray. Blame him.
Like it.
Write your complaints to him.
But yeah, so I don't. That was why. Is that I think, and the other thing is that we've just seen her in a UK thing, and she can't make a second series of that because schedules are conflicting. You think, so you've gone to Australia to make that? Oh, I don't know.
Well, do we know for a fact it was all shot in Australia? It might have been.
Yeah, it is all shot in Australia. It's an Australia. I mean, that's what they call it. It's an Australian comedy. But yeah, I mean, they've got 25 million people in Australia. That's why is that
Well, that's not insignificant, is it?
Well, you wouldn't want them all around your house at the same time, but.
I don't think the floorboards would take it, especially as you're living out of a caravan.
Yeah, it'd be a bit snug in here, I tell you. That's yeah. But Kayleigh, can you just move down a bit because it's getting cramped. Yeah, no, it was just. I just thought it was just a bit of a strange one.
Are we in the age of where people all have to be the same nationality in that nation's production?
No, I don't think so. I'll check later. I'll have a look at the calendar and see.
Anyway, diseases and nationalities to one side. I watched the trailer, which I rather hope you did.
Oh, it looks
I don't know
awful,
if you
doesn't
did.
it? Do you think?
You are inviting me to agree with you. I can't say it drew me in, but neither did it repel me.
It looks awful. That's the Adrian speak for it. Looked awful.
No, I think it was cut in such a way that you couldn't actually work out if it's a decent show or an indecent show.
I think that's a fair
indecent.
comment. Yeah, I think the trailer was cut very oddly, wasn't it?
Yes, you get a reaction shot on her, which was probably lifted from a different episode, you kind of suspect, and it didn't quite fit with it. And I don't blame her for that. I have to say there is one consistency with what I was referring to at great length when we had Defending the Guilty, which is still on BBC iPlayer, I think, when we had that on the Slab the other week, which is she manages to whisper some of her lines. So there is at least consistency.
Should we bang into car share and get on?
There's a term talking about spreadsheet sex. We're banging into.
If you want to watch it, by
okay.
the way, Channel 4. I mean, of course they have. Channel 4 have bought it, and it'll be available on their website. Awful. So if you want to go and catch that, then then it's there.
Guess what I'm putting on the Slab next week?
Can you imagine? Oh man. But there you go. Anyway, car share. You'd seen. A throwaway line. I might have seen a couple. I mean, it's like madness.
Well, it's seismic as a statement for me, isn't it?
It is really.
The Unitarian but it was in my pre-Unitarian days, I'd have to say. It goes back a few years, doesn't it? But I can't remember.
Yeah, I think they're quite. Yeah, it's one that I kind of dodged, which I'm sure we'll talk more about a little bit later.
I am surprised actually, and I thought. I can't remember whether you're a particular Peter Kay fan. But I think you quite enjoy him. Have done in other guises.
Yeah.
That nightclub thing.
Yes, Max and Paddy.
No, I was at Phoenix Nights.
Phoenix Nights and Max and Paddy. Yeah, quite like Max and Paddy.
We slabbed Max and Paddy, didn't we?
That's right. Yeah, but not Phoenix. You weren't keen, were you? Weren't particularly. I seem to recall.
Yeah. I've enjoyed his stand-up, by which I mean all of one show, but a full-length show. I think it's quite a bit legendary, isn't it? Because it was a big hit for
the tour that didn't tour.
Either a big DVD seller or it was a big ratings hit second time around, I seem to think, for Channel 4. The Manchester Arena or
possibly? Yeah, that was the tour that didn't tour, wasn't it? I think it was called. I think was there.
Right.
The thing. But anyway,
if you say so.
Shall we have a clip and have a listen and get a feel and get a flavour for?
I thought you would say something else then after Get a Feel.
For gosh.
If you must.
Should we cop a feel of gosh? Yeah,
is that the price I have to pay for doing a podcast with you?
You knew there would be a price.
Very retro.
No good complaining now, is there really?
It's my soul. Right, yes.
Peter Kay plays a character called John. And he plays opposite a young lady called Sian Gibson, who plays a character called Kayleigh. And the premise, obviously, as the name implies, is that they have a work car share. And this is all kind of new. Don't forget, this is episode 3, so they're kind of like, it's all kind of new to them in that sense. I think as time goes on, they settle into it a bit more. But John arrives at Kayleigh's house to pick her up for work, and she comes out to the house. It is apparent very early on, not least the fact with her hair, and you have to take our word for this because they mentioned it, I think she smells of booze. She actually falls over before she gets into the car, but once inside, that she realises that she's injured.
John, look at that!
Right, I'm driving.
Look at it!
Well, you hurt your hand when you fell, didn't you?
I've got gravel in my hand!
Yeah.
Dirty.
Some words.
Thank you. Thank you!
My pleasure.
Why? Have you got baby wipes in your car?
They're not baby wipes, just wipes.
Well, you haven't got a baby, and you don't wear makeup. Oh, do you?
You hurt last night, were you?
Well, you know R. Kelly's going to Australia tonight.
Yeah, you said.
So everyone just piled round at our house for a party. Why? Because I said so.
You are proper pissed.
I am. I can't do it anymore. I'm too old. I used to go out and party. Party all night long. Party with Kayleigh. I go to work. 8-hour shift. Yes, sir. Fine. Now, it's going to take me about 4 days to get over this, John. Seriously.
Not as long as it's going to take me to get over it. Oh, have I given the game away?
Give us a headline and that should put it all to bed.
This Cher isn't sunny.
Oh.
Or Google it if that doesn't make much sense.
Oh dear. Okay. Go on. Expand.
Explode. Well, look, I know it's called acting and I know she's pretending to have an annoying voice, but it's still annoying. And I just don't get on with Peter Kay pretty much in any roles other than as a stand-up, which he is superb at, but he's probably not done that for yonks, as far as I know. I mean, quite apart from the pandemic, I think, would it be true to say he's more of an actor, comedy actor these days than a stand-up?
I don't think he's been well. I mean, there was a suggestion that he hadn't been very well at all, and as a result of that, he hadn't been doing any work at all. But
well, I'm very sorry to hear that. And he's only young, born 1973. So.
Such is his desire for privacy, and why not? I think people are, it hasn't been stood up as a story, so I'm not really quite sure whether it has any validity or not. But do you know what intrigues me about you saying that? Oh, I can't really get on with him in any other guys other than stand up. Is that he doesn't exactly stretch himself as an actor, does he? I mean, if you went to see him in his stand up show, it wouldn't be vastly different from the character John that he's playing, is he? It's kind of him. It's always him, isn't it? He's not discernibly different from the stand-up persona, is he?
No, as far as I can make out. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen. I've possibly only seen the big one that he's known for. Is it the Manchester Arena stand-up? Or I'm trying to see whether. I mean, Wikipedia's got him still active by implication now. We'll see if we can find out any more about that. But I do hope he's well, and that if he's low profile now, that's through choice rather than anything else.
So how does it? If given that he's the kind of same that he's not, putting on a vastly different character, how does that work? That you don't get on with him in this guise?
Well, if I think the kind of things he was doing in stand-up, I'm not quite sure I accept the premise of your question. I mean, I was thinking of the dunking sequence, biscuit dunking and garlic bread and all of that. Isn't that him? I quite like that. I mean, I must have been in the right mood for it. I can imagine if I was in a bad mood, it would just go down like a cup of cold sick. But that's very different, isn't it? That's quite dynamic. I mean, you may be talking more about accents and so on, but he's a dynamic stand-up, or was. No,
I mean just persona. It's like if I can kind of get it if you go, oh, he's putting on that stupid voice, I don't like that, or I hate the wig that he wears, or I wish he wouldn't wear those shoes. Then I could, but he's the same persona as his stand-up. That's what I don't get. The voice is the same, the hair's the same, the face is the same, the mannerisms are the same, the comedy's the same, really, in essence, isn't it? Yeah, I think so.
Well, but when he's sliding across the stage as if he's at a wedding reception, I think that's not the same. That's physical comedy, and he brought the house down, and there's a very different feel. I'd say he's much more downbeat in his acting roles, almost to the point of not quite being straight drama, but certainly downplayed. And I haven't said it for a while, so I'll trot out my old phrase for it: smile com type thing rather than comedy.
Did you
laugh out loud?
Could you? And it's interesting you say that, because the Sian Gibson voice thing. When I was cutting the clips for this episode, when I was just listening to the audio, I found it really great, and it was really, really awful. And then I went back and had a look at it, and when you see in the context of the visuals, for some reason, it didn't grate on me as much.
Yeah, I know. I think that's not to be wondered at, really, because psychologically we're geared to prioritising what we see over what we hear.
Right.
Although I've taught myself otherwise as a radio fan and a former sound engineer. So I'm not normal, but then you could say that of many aspects of my life and character. But I always remember, since we're talking TV, was it Dr. Miriam Stoppard on ITV once demonstrating with poor little toddler? I'm not sure you get away with it now, doing the health and safety checks as the production manager beforehand.
Was that the one where she threw me into a bucket?
No, fired from a cannon.
Oh, that was it.
Correctly.
Yeah.
How we laughed.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, the parents weren't so amused when they realised the child was missing. No, this toddler. We'd have to hope at least they're on a soft surface, a soft mat. But they've constructed this false wall, and what looks to the poor toddler, who knows no better, doesn't realise they're in something called a TV studio, but they're in this fake room, and then they move the walls without moving anything else, and the child falls over because, as I say, vision has trumped everything else. So even though we've got a sense of balance, unless, like Peter Kay's friend, you've overdone it the night before, the brain is saying, oh, well, the eyes are telling me the walls are moving, I must fall over, because, the whole thing. So that's stayed with me for an awful long time.
I'm not surprised.
Almost to the point of trauma.
Yeah.
But then I was that toddler, so maybe it's not to be wondered at.
See, now I thought you were Dr. Miriam Stoppard, so it just shows you, doesn't it, what I know? not really good.
I am, but only on Wednesday evening.
Do you know, I'm really shocked because... not just only on Wednesday evening, but no, I'm really shocked that you didn't like it, because I'm just looking at my notes and there were so many laugh out loud moments for me throughout this episode.
Oh, look, I'm pleased for you. And also, in theory, I thought, well, that's some years ago, but when I heard about the formula, I thought, oh, that's a good premise. But also, I've got to raise this, sorry, before I forget. Did you ever see, is it called Carpool, where somebody's interviewed in a car?
No, well, is that Robert Llewellyn?
That sounds, yes. I'm glad you remember the name, because I wouldn't have done.
Who actually played Crichton, the robot in Red Dwarf.
Oh,
I'm
of course
sorry,
he did.
Sorry, sir, but you are a smeghead. He was that Robert Llewellyn.
So to you.
He does podcasts about electric vehicles now. I think he's really quite into electric. He had an electric car. I think he had a Prius or something.
Right.
And he kind of got into it, and he test drives and does all, which I think he's called Fully Charged.
But wasn't the Carpool sponsored by Toyota?
I could have been. Yeah, I think he did it in his Prius, didn't he? I think that's what it was. Yeah, they were really good. I really liked them, and he interviewed everybody from colleagues like Craig Charles to comedians. Yeah.
But it was just a gimmick, wasn't it? At the end of the day, I mean, I remember them. There's no way it could have taken them as long as they made out to go simply from the BBC's corporate headquarters, as was in White City, down to, it was only in West London, but it would be a couple of miles, and even with London traffic, it wouldn't take the half hour. They were obviously going all around the houses.
Oh, I don't know. I had a Ford Escort once, and that would have taken me a long time in that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was all those rubber bands you had to twist and turn. But that was Jason Manford, just before he fell from grace due to a sexting incident. But, it doesn't seem to have damaged his career. What it did to his marriage is something entirely different. I don't know about that. But
yeah, no, there was so many. I don't know. Didn't you not like the radio in the background? Or did you pick up on any of that going on?
It was such a tired cliche. I mean, how can it be funny when, it didn't have any of the, I'm going to say it, the AP words. It didn't have any of the pizzazz of Alan Partridge, who, incidentally, I'm seeing performing in Brighton this weekend.
All right.
But basically, it's a very pedestrian type, no pun intended in the car, very pedestrian type commercial radio station where they play very predictable hits and make predictable remarks about them.
I don't know. There was did you hear the ad for weight stoppers going on in the background? And there's a woman there, she's going, I had a terrible problem with my weight before I went to Weight Stoppers. People used to call me all kinds of names, like Chunky Monkey, Fatty Bum Bum, Sausage Fingers, Blob Face. And there's all
It's funnier when you do it.
All these things going on in the background.
No, but it was just a very tired... It just didn't seem to be doing anything on top of quite painfully, for me, painful without the laughs, painfully reproducing what a naff radio station would do anyway.
Right.
All the hits just in a different order each day.
He has got form with that, hasn't he? Because I think that it was
That was
Chorley
FM?
Chorley FM coming in your ears. Yeah. Which
Again, funnier when you say
this is called
reason.
Forever FM, and I like as he said, Forever FM, playing timeless hits now and forever. And this idea that they were just going to go on forever is quite optimistic.
Yeah, but
isn't it?
it's all for me. The pain is it's too close to the truth,
Right?
Because you think now if something is a massive hit today and you hate it, you are stuck with it for the rest of your known life on that type of radio station. Now, you can choose to swerve and listen to something else, which I normally do.
But they said that about Partridge, didn't they? It was the reason it was funny was because it's close to the truth. You know, when he's talking about what was his colleague called, Wally Banter. What was he?
Don't say that just before I take a mouthful of Red Bush tea.
Wally Banter's soapbox.
Yeah, but that's funny in its own right. Whereas, for what I heard, short of the fatty bum was just tedious. And the other thing is, I have got a problem with dialogue over dialogue. So them talking on top of, you couldn't possibly. You might contradict me on this, but I can't listen to two lots of dialogue at the same time.
Sorry, I was listening to somebody else then. What did you say?
No, sorry, I've just got a call coming through.
I was listening to the
much
voice,
more interesting than you.
Listening to the voices in my head.
As long as you don't act on them.
Sorry, what did you say? Kill him? What?
Kill him. Could it be time for a second audio clip?
I was going to say, shall we up the ante?
Or a first one?
And see if this makes any difference at all.
Up your ante is all I could say, but I pronounce it auntie.
They're well on their way in their journey, and they see a work colleague, Ray the fishmonger, standing at a bus stop, and despite the smell, which they talk about at length, certainly before he gets in the car, they reluctantly pick him up at the bus stop, I think, because he comes and bangs on the window. Not only does he stink of fish, but Ray likes to talk.
And that's why you'll never beat the Japanese for efficiency. Hey, did you talk to Dave Thompson about him getting me some cover on the counter?
I did. He's all over it, Ray. He's going to get it sorted.
You said that 3 weeks ago.
I'll chase him up. Trust me, it's going to get sorted.
I'm up to my eyes in it since George collapsed. Are you listening?
Look, I'm listening.
Hey, Ray, if he says he'll sort it, he'll sort it, all right.
I could take me Winehouse here.
He's got enough on his plate, this fella. He's got to organise Christmas.
Christmas, I'm spread out too thin down there.
Just no need for that, okay?
How dare you F Christmas? It's only ruddy fish, Ray. There's plenty more of them in the sea.
Only fish. You've got no idea, have you?
No.
I've got 30 lines coming in every single day, love. I've got to gut them and get them cleaned up. And it's all about presentation. So if they can't see it, they can't buy it. Eye level is buy level, and they're not just buying fish. It's personality. I've always said it. It's 30% fish, 70% charisma. It's not bollocks, and it's got to be fresh. Because if they can smell it before they can see it, we've got a big problem.
We've got a big problem.
Come again?
I'm just getting a drink.
Fishmongery is an art form. It's a skill. Fish is in my blood.
Well, that does elevate it when you've got someone of the calibre of a Reese Shearsmith, if I got the name right. Me and my lousy head for names. Yeah, that did work somewhat better. That's third time through the gate for me. But there were some impossible scenarios. Didn't you feel like the rather buff guy wheeling the trolleys in the car park?
Yeah.
The shopping trolleys. I know it's deliberately trying to upset this stereotype of the person of, it's a low status job. But did you find that at all believable that someone would be stripped to the waist and would look like they performed for the Chippendales?
Yeah. It didn't.
Have you ever seen that?
Didn't jar with me at all.
Well, I'm going to join you at your supermarket.
I mean, you'd have to be there at a specific time, because I think with a supermarket, they if you did, somebody would be told not to do it, and then if they did it again, they'd be sacked, wouldn't they? So it's one of those things that you never see, because it would never be allowed to happen.
Or is it that it just wouldn't happen anyway? Because a guy, A, you wouldn't strip to the waist, even if you were that buff, and B,
you wouldn't strip to the waist. Well, no, it was literally the other day. We've got builders on site, and one of the guys had taken his top off, and he's sat there in a digger and then walking around with no top on.
Yeah, and not wheeling shopping trolleys.
No, but he's doing the job. He was at work.
I don't think that's a big headline. Builder strips off to the waist. Shock. It's a manual job that you can get quite warm doing.
And humping shopping trolleys about isn't. What's that? Cerebral, is it? That's
Yes, I've applied, given it a lot of thought. Well, I overthink it.
I didn't know. I didn't know whether I was going to be a philosopher or whether I thought I could go and hump shopping trolleys about. But they wouldn't let me take my top off, so I thought to be a philosopher instead. My daughter actually said to me, "Daddy, why has that man got no clothes on?"
He's a philosopher, you said, darling.
Yes, I said that. I said, but just, make sure if you find a husband, make sure he pumps shopping trolleys about, because they're. It didn't bother me. Is the short answer, but.
Okay, but that wasn't the only incident. I mean, Peter Kay inside a cardboard box that's being lifted by the Reese Shearsmith, the Ray character.
Well, this is them trying to get out of giving him a lift back, isn't it? Which kind of backfires is that it was a stretch, but again it didn't. I mean, Reese Shearsmith's inclusion. I mean, it was just laugh out loud moments. If you get a minute, and if you watch the episode, if you get a chance, if you go onto YouTube and type in car share Reese Shearsmith outtakes, there's a whole section of that scene where and Peter Kay just can't keep control, because he's just saying all these things. And
is that why they have to go again? Because Peter Kay's corpse.
They are, and he actually said, Reese Shearsmith said, or was it Peter Kay said in an interview? I think Peter Kay might have said. He said, I was really worried that. No, it was Reid Shearsmith. He was saying I was really worried that they wouldn't be able to find edit points to get in and out on it. He said, because we were just like going at it. He said, and I kept throwing other things in and making him laugh. And, it's just, I mean.
So he's ad-libbing on top of the script.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure how scripted it was, to be honest with you. But, there's the lyrical gangster song comes on the radio. And he goes, oh, turn it up. And he's sitting there going, oh, no, I'm the lyrical gang flap. Just absolutely.
What an image that conjures up.
Oh man, he was just so funny.
I was a very naughty boy to this back in the day.
Oh man,
or something like that.
I just a bit of class there, really, and I think it just it lifted. I mean, it needed, the episode kind of needed that inclusion.
Well,
of somebody
may
else.
I ask why you felt it needed that? Is that not making my argument for me?
No, not at all. I mean, I just think that there's only. Although having said that, I've seen whole episodes with the two of them, and then he's very clever about the way they bring people in. There's one episode where that I've just seen a clip of, because I've the only whole episode I've seen. There's one episode where she gets confused and thinks that dogging is when you go out walking your dog.
With hilarious consequences, no doubt.
Well, there's a guy walking a dog on the side of the road. I won't ruin it because it gets a bit fruity.
Do they wind the window down and speak to him?
But she says, "Excuse me, can you say? But do you like dogging?" And and he's going, "Oh yeah, love." And she's going, "Yeah, look, it's about walking your dog." And then he makes some reference at the end, which
gives the game away.
Assumes that he's actually talking about meeting up with people for sex in outdoor areas. So
right.
Yeah, but it's clever. I think it's clever in the way that it brings people in and just kind of breaks up that just the two-hander kind of thing. But no, I was pleasantly surprised, because I'd avoided this for the reason that you said about Peter Kay's stand-up, where people always gone about the biscuits. Oh, it's so funny about the. It's a bit to me. It's about like when people go, "Oh yeah, what's your favourite Beatles album?" I'd have to say, "Oh, the best of the Beatles." Or
That's an Alan Partridge, isn't it?
Yeah,
the blue one.
But it's that kind of thing, isn't it? It's where you kind of think you don't really know what you. It's just you've heard everybody else talk about the biscuits, and that's your funny bit now. But
how very dare you? That was my favourite bit. I can't mention it now.
Well, you can mention it if you want to, but everybody knows what it's shorthand for. It's up to you. It's your choice.
Well, it's the famous slow-mo. Oh, no, it's John in me brew.
Yeah.
See, it's made such a deep impression on me.
So because of that and the way everybody used to bang on about Peter Kay, I kind of avoided it and didn't want to, and I'm really sad I did now because from what I saw, I thought it was great. I thought you would like it more than you have.
I think I thought that before I watched it the first time. And I did, may I say, I deliberately tried to wipe the slate clean this time round. I buried the memory of being disappointed by it. It doesn't seem worthy, equal to his talents. And I haven't got it in for Sian Gibson. I mean, she was required to do a very squeaky voice, particularly because she's hungover and she's still drunk, isn't she?
All right, let's come at it from another angle. I'm not trying to convince you because that's how you feel about it or whatever. But did you warm to its soft centre as well? Because it does have one, doesn't it? Is this idea there's not a sexual chemistry, but there's a kind of a relationship chemistry brewing between the two of them. They talk like they're an established couple.
Is it closer to brother and sister, do you think?
Well, no, because I mean, he even says at one point, doesn't he? He says, "Oh, I'm not going to meet anyone sitting on my bum," kind of thing. And you think, well, that's exactly what he's doing, and he has met somebody, and there's this, and I think this kind of romance relationship thing is sort of plays through the series as well. Didn't that impact you at all, or did you not pick up on it? Or
I didn't pick up on it in this episode. My girlfriend actually said that's what she warmed to, and she said also that she felt you needed to watch an episode more than once. Well, given that I only watch one episode per series, to watch it a second time when it's not on the slab is a big ask, as they say. I'm just not getting. Well, can we come back to something you raised? I think was it when you were setting this homework? A reminder of the old canard, the old phrase. Sitcoms are so often about the comedy of confinement, and I guess I thought, yeah, this should be really rich pickings. Stuck in a car, stuck in traffic, and it just didn't rise above the kind of naff radio type jokes, and for me, I'm sorry.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? I'm always fascinated the way two people can watch the same program and just see it completely differently. Always kind of fascinates me. I mean, the other thing that I warm to is that they weren't overplayed. I mean, with the exception probably Roy the Fishmonger was a little bit.
I think big exception, but yeah. I cut him some slack because he was genuinely funny. Really.
Yeah, I mean, very funny. But I mean, the two of them, I think, play very believable characters. Any points for that? Do you think?
Well, isn't that what actors are meant to do?
Well,
be believable.
But I mean, if you listen to last week, I kind of unrelatable, unbelievable.
Oh, that was your view, darling. That was larger than life. This is, I don't know, is it smaller than life apart from Stingray, the fishmonger?
I'm reading Pete Postlethwaite's autobiography at the moment, and he was saying that his mom came to see him in a play. I can't remember what the play was. And they used to, his mum and dad used to come and see him a lot in plays when he was performing. They'd come to the theatre and see it. And he asked his mum after the show, and he said, and they'd had a conversation about the dialogue in this play, and he said, "What did you think, Mum?" He said, "Did you like it?" And he said she thought for a moment. He said, and I was like kind of worried because I'm thinking, is she going to upset me with what she said? And she said, I've got to tell you, love, she said, I didn't really understand what anyone was talking about, but I got the gist of what they meant. And he said that was a real grounding moment for me. He said, because you realise that in order to break through to people, generally, characters need to be believable. They need to be relatable and they need to be believable. And I think, to me, that's what I want to see. I want to see somebody that I'm not thinking, oh, that's somebody putting on a posh voice and, trying to be somebody that they're not. Or in the same way I go on about dialogue, people wouldn't say that. You kind of want to see people that you don't think, oh, well, nobody would act like that, or you wouldn't behave like that, or they're an unrealistic character. And I think those characterizations are really important. It goes back to what you were saying at the start of this about what you see takes preference over what you hear sometimes.
Yeah, sadly, I'm not going to be won over on this. I wanted to join you on this journey, if you'll pardon the phrase. I don't really have too much to add, except that I am pleased for you. I just wish I could enjoy it the same way you did, but with the honourable exception of Reese Shearsmith.
Okay, so we put some numbers on it then?
If we must. And I might not be as mean as you think, because I tend to try and be a little more generous than I might sound.
I hated it. 4.
I loved it. 3.
Yeah.
No, I think it deserves. I suppose there's a little bit of stretching a 2.5, which is really what I probably should give it, but stretching it to try and believe that it could be a bit better. And maybe in the ideal world with limitless time, I would try another episode and see if I was wowed by the dream sequences or anything else.
So you're giving it a 3, are you, or a 2.5?
Oh yeah, I'm going for 3.
A 3, okay. 7 out of 10 for Peter Kay's car share then.
So yes, on the slab of shame, or is it the slab of fame? If I say the legendary phrase, well, legendary to me, and hopefully to one or two people listening, if I say space argument, does that mean anything?
No.
If you can imagine, I mean, there's no reason why there shouldn't be working class astronauts, but we don't normally hear them, and much less do we see them, and much less still do we see one astronaut who locks out his colleague in outer space on his spacewalk while he helps himself to the mates or colleagues' beer in the fridge. Anyway, that is just one of many recurring characters in Modern Toss, for that is what I'm putting on the slab next week. Now, we've had to raid the YouTube cabinet for this one, but provided it stays there, at least for the next week, and hopefully for much longer, we can find a complete episode. But actually, it's the pilot, which I'm not sure I've ever seen. But I do come in my pre-Unitarian days. I've got the DVD of this, not that I've seen it for ages, but I lapped them up because I love them. I hope you do too. I can't guarantee it. But anyway, it's Modern Toss. Go to the Tube of You and search for Modern Toss pilot, and you will see the entire episode.
Okay. Don't forget, if you've enjoyed the Comedy Slab podcast, you can go back and catch back episodes on YouTube as well. You can also get them on Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeart Radio, and Spotify, amongst many, many more, as Kato used to say. And you can go back and 196 other episodes besides this one. If that doesn't keep you entertained, or at least help you get to sleep, then nothing will.
And if you really are struggling with getting to sleep, why not go to the Twitter and follow us on? No, I think you'll find it genuinely stimulating. It'll do the reverse of sending you to sleep. Our Twitter handle is shockingly at Comedy Slab, as is the handle for our Facebook page. So if you could like the latter, follow us on the former, you will be that much better informed. So, do you fancy a ride home? Sitting next to me in the car?
I'm not going with you. I know what you like. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to change gear, and then you got your hand all over me knee. I know they don't call you the lyrical gang flap for nothing, do they? You know what I mean?